We got here 15 Chevy Silverado, 1500 L83 motor, which is the 5.3, guys. Now, the remote start don't work on this vehicle. I guess I could show you. Alright, so to get our remote start to work, we gotta lock the vehicle, so let's go ahead and lock it. And you can hear the horn chirp. Now I'm gonna hold the remote start function. Let go. Let's try it again. I got nothing. Try locking it one more time. Hold it. Oh, there we go. So you see that flash when I held the remote start, but no start. So let's check the fault codes. So when I did a code scan on the Auto, these are the codes I had in there. Now the ones that are hard faults are a hooded jar circuit. We got a short to be positive, and then we've got a hooded jar circuit open. These are hard faults because when I try to clear them on the Auto, let's see here. Let's go into the BCM. Now that will cause the remote start obviously not to work because, well, I'm assuming it would because it thinks the hood's open. So let's go into trouble codes. And there you go. Those are our codes we're working with. Let's go ahead and clear those. Oh, let me go put the key back on. Alright, keys back on. Let's clear them. Yes, I want to clear them. Alright, it says no faults code detected, but watch this. I hit OK. I escape. It's going to rescan, and boom. They come right back. Let's go in there. And our codes are right back again, so this should be a fairly easy one. Most likely, you know, either we got a bad switch or we got some kind of wiring issue to the switch. So let me see if I can find it in the BCM under live data. So let's go to escape, live data. Forgive the noise, guys. It's busy. I hope you guys are busy too. Let's see, remote vehicle start. Let's go into that once. Alright, so we got what? Remote vehicle start attempts exhausted 3. Remote start exhausted 2. Ignition switch start. We'll come back to this. Let's go back. I want to find that input for that hood switch. Chassis control maybe? Let me keep looking around. Alright, I went into theft data. That will be content theft deterrent alarm trigger. Now this is something interesting. You go in here, and if you come down, you'll see hood position closed. So let me try popping the hood once. Okay, I just popped the hood. I haven't opened it all the way up, and it's still saying closed. And you can see hood's wide open and we're still saying closed. So let me go find the switch. Alright, so the switch, hold on a second, guys. So the switch wiring is right there. It's in the latch itself. So what I want to do is I'd imagine it's just a 2-wire, and basically, you know, it's just an input. So I'm gonna get this off so we can get down to it and do our testing. Well, after getting the cover off, I thought this was going to be a cool video, but if you take a peek here, there's our hood switch wiring. If you take a peek at the wire right there, you will see, hopefully I can get it, we got open copper. So we're done right there. Kind of sucks. I was hoping it would be kind of something cool, but nevertheless, let me disconnect that. We're going to reconnect that wire and see if we can get this remote start to work. Alright, real quick guys, the one that's broken is the black wire. I'm not sure if that's a ground, signal wire, reference wire. It really doesn't matter, to be honest with you. So since the yellow and the red are still intact, what we're going to do is I pierced into the black wire right there. We'll close this latch. We'll jumper this right to that pin and reconnect it, and then see if we can change our hood status and get the remote start to work. So let me get set up. Now I already told my service writer to go ahead and order a latch, because I imagine the latch is, you know, the switch is part of the latch. So he's already looking that up while I'm working this. I already told him I'm just going to bypass it quick just to make sure that this is going to fix it. There you go. So let's close the latch. Well, no need to close the latch, guys. As you can see, hood position is now open after I jumpered it. So I'm going to close the latch and see if the remote start works. So there's a note for you. When you have an open, it's going to say the hood's always closed. Not sure why, but that's what the value will be on the scan tool, okay? Alright, I just used a screwdriver to push the latch down and close it. So our hood's still open. And you can see that the switch status changed to closed. Now the reason I think it defaulted to the closed position without looking at a wiring diagram is because with that open in that signal wire or whatever's, you know, that voltage value is what the computer sees as being closed, okay? But because of the fault codes, which we can go out and clear those now, let me go make sure my key's on. But like I said, because of the voltage values, that's what the computer uses. Now without pulling up a wiring diagram, and I can do that, I'll incorporate that in the, you know, I'll edit that into the video here, explaining how the circuit works. But I'm at work, so I gotta get going here. So let's go to these trouble codes. Let's clear these DTCs. Again, we're in the BCM. That's what gave us our direction. Okay, now let's go out. And it's gonna rescan, and no faults. So the remote start should work now. And because the hood is technically closed right now, guys, no fault codes. Again, we'll hit the lock. Okay. Horn chirped. Hold it. Oh. Let's see here. Did I do that right? Let's see, lock. Hold. There you go. Alright. She's fixed. I guess we could do it one more time just to make sure. So let me open the door. Let's unlock. I think if you hit the brake pedal, it should shut down. Maybe not on this one. Put the key in. Turn the ignition on. Turn it off. She shut off. Get out. Hit the lock button. Horn chirped. Hold our remote start. There you go, she starts right up. That's it, guys. Like I said, I'll edit in a second part to, you know, now that I've got this editing thing kind of figured out, and explain the circuit to you. Thanks for watching. Circuit design of this hooded jar switch. Alright, let me explain how this switch works, okay? The BCM, alright, is monitoring. The BCM is applying 12 volts to the signal circuit, and it basically monitors the voltage to determine the hood position, okay? When the hood is closed, the switch is open and the voltage goes high. When the hood is open, the switch is closed and the voltage is pulled low. This can be confusing, guys, because they're the opposite of what your brain's going to want to think, okay? And it's really tough to explain this. I'm not going to lie to you. Something simple as a hood switch and its operation is difficult. So again, hood closed, that means the hood is closed, our switch is open, and our voltage will be high. When the hood is open, okay, the switch is closed, and the voltage is pulled low. So knowing that, right now, looking at this wiring diagram, I can tell you that this is drawn with the hood open and the switch closed. Because when I looked up this information, the OEM wiring diagram, on this aftermarket wiring diagram, they're not going to give it to you. But in the OEM one, there are 3 resistors, obviously. This is a 732 ohm resistor. This is a 1580 ohm resistor. And this is a 732 ohm resistor. Okay? So we have 3 resistors in parallel, or I'm sorry, in series with one another. And they all are different, all have different resistance values, okay? So, the hood is open right now with the switch closed. Why would the voltage be low? So, again, BCM is gonna supply 12 volts down this brown green, or through this brown green. It's gonna come through this diode, that 12 volts, it's gonna come across the 732 ohm resistor. It's gonna come to here, it's gonna go down the switch, and it's going to find its path to ground. But because, okay, now it's going to take the path of least resistance, right? The current flow is always going to find the path of least resistance. Because we have a 1580 ohm resistor here, the path of least resistance is obviously this way, right? So that makes sense. With the hood open, switch closed, 12 volts coming through this diode, and I'll explain these diodes in a minute here. We're only going to be, our current flow, picture this as the kink in the hose, right? 732 ohms of resistance, 12 volts. Our current flow is going to be higher. Our amperage is going to be higher in this position, okay? Which means lower voltage, okay? The voltage is going to drop faster across the 732 ohm resistor, okay, with the hood open. Does that make sense? I hope it does. If I close my hood and the switch moves this way to the open position, our voltage is going to be higher, right? And the reason it's going to be higher is because, again, 12 volts coming through, going across the 732 ohm resistor. It can't go this way because the switch is over here now, so there's no flow here. So it has to go across this 1580 ohm resistor in the middle, and it has to find its path to ground this way, right? Because again, there's a 732 ohm resistor here that's going to stop it even further. It's going to restrict the ability for it to drop to ground. So it's going to want to go this way. But because we're dropping voltage, or because we have a 732 ohm resistor here and a 1580 ohm resistor here, okay, what would that be in resistance? That would be 2,312 ohms of resistance total, okay? It's going to create a massive amount of restriction for current flow, which means our voltage has to go high, okay? Has to go high on our signal wire. Hope that makes sense. Now, let me explain real quick the diodes and the 3 wires, because this can be confusing. Because if you remember right, when we were looking at the connector and found the open, now this is the new switch, okay? This is switch side, guys, of the connector. This is harness side of the connector. And you can see that brown, green, and that black, the 2 wires, and you can see the 3rd pin not used, right? Look at the switch side. Yellow, red, and black, okay? Our open was in the ground, right? The black here, right here at the connector. Why do they have 3 wires here on the switch side And why are they not using the yellow wire? Haha. Okay. They don't draw this connector. They don't draw these colors on the wiring diagram. Not on the OEM or this aftermarket diagram. You'll have that. And I don't want anyone to get confused on this. So that's why I'm explaining it. That yellow wire is a third option for a signal, another signal wire. This is where the diodes come into play. So back at our wiring diagram, the brown-green to pin B would be our red. And then, of course, our black is pin C. And our yellow would be on pin A, which is not used, okay? 2 diodes on either side. So if you look, this switch, okay, again, 732 ohms, 732 ohms, 1580 resistors in there. I can actually put 12 volts up this way and 12 volts up this way through these diodes. And they're just, it's always going to 12 volts is always going to be maintained in here, okay? It can't go this way and affect the signal wire for the BCM because of the diode. The 12 volts coming from the BCM this way can't affect, let's say, another computer, i.e. PCM, which is probably what they do. I believe that's what they do because I looked at 2016 and 2017 model years, particularly the hybrid models, and that's where that input would go. Why they're monitoring the hood position for why the PCM would need to know that and the BCM, I have no idea, guys. Doesn't matter. All I'm telling you is that this switch is designed for multiple applications. That's why we have 3 wires going to it, okay? But in this particular vehicle, they're only using, it's only a two wire switch. So that's why it doesn't matter, because if I'm sending 12 this way, right, my voltage drop across these resistors is going to work exactly the same way on this side as it does on this side. That's why they put these diodes in there, okay? They put those diodes in there so that you can run 2 signal wires to the switch assembly, and it's not going to affect the voltage reading or, the signal voltage on either side. Does that make sense? Another note, notice the dotted line here on the ground junction, or a splice if you will. This means that this ground is shared on the harness side with multiple components, okay? Not relevant, but I just wanted to point that out. Now, if you're doing checks with the key on, engine off, right? Obviously, the BCM is going to send 12 volts this way. We would want to disconnect it. And I didn't do this in the video. No need to, because I found my open, right? Based on the code setting criteria. But if you wanted to check the integrity of the ground, we all know how to do that. You use a test light, right? Hooked to B positive with the key on, engine off, and disconnected. And we're going to check the ground to make sure we have a test light with our test light hooked to B positive. And if it lights, okay, loaded, we assume this ground is good. Switch it over to B negative, check on pin B, and we should have the 12 volts or a lit test light, right? Pretty straightforward. Okay, getting back to this. Why did we have the codes that we had? Okay, so we had a B3006-01 and a 04, if I remember right, were our 2 codes. If you remember right, the codes were shorted to be positive, hooded jar switch shorted to be or signal shorted to be positive or open, right? Those were like the codes we had. Now think about that. If we have an open in this ground, okay, all right? If we have an open in this ground and I'm sending 12 volts this way, is there any path for current flow? No. Regardless of the resistor, it really doesn't matter. That voltage on that signal wire is always going to be at 12 volts. It's going to be fixed at 12 volts. That's why the BCM said, hey, I got a short to be positive or an open. It knew that it should never be at 12 volts. It should be less than 12 volts here and way less than 12 volts here, depending on which way the switch is and the hood position, right? So that's why we're using resistors like we are in this. That's why we're using the diodes. And that's, in a nutshell, how that works. Now, resistance measurements is how you would check this switch integrity. This is where an ohm meter would actually be beneficial for you, because you can check from B to C, okay? And right now, again, we're in what position? Hood open, right? Switch is closed. So let's wait, let me rephrase that. So if you were, before we get into the resistance measurements, so if you remember right on the scan data PID, our hood position was always saying closed, okay? Because we had an open in our ground. That would make sense because the switch was open, essentially open. Voltage was always high. So that's why no matter which way no matter if we opened a hood or closed the hood, it was always saying closed because the voltage was fixed high. I hope that makes sense, okay? What do I want to get into? I want to get into the voltage, the resistance value checks, and this is in the diagnostic trouble tree, if you will. They give you the resistance values they should be from pin to pin, okay? So disconnected, we want to do resistance checks and check the integrity of these resistors and the switch, the internals of the switch, to make sure that the resistance values are where they're supposed to be, okay? So the first resistance value I want is from red to black, okay? Red to black with the switch or the hood open, you know, so it's not latched, okay? So if the hood's open, the switch is closed, just as it's drawn here. So if I take a resistance measurement from B to C, okay? From B to C, I would expect to see what for a resistance value? 732 ohms, okay? And there you go. That's what we were getting, 732 ohms of resistance. The next check I want to do would be from black to yellow, okay? Black to yellow would be from B to A. We're going to read a resistance value of all three resistors, okay? Or I'm sorry, black. Did I say black to yellow? Okay, black to yellow would be from C to A, okay? C to A. That means our resistance value with the switch, or I'm sorry, with the latch open, right? I should have a resistance value of 2,312 ohms because we're adding these two resistors together. Give or take, pretty close. You know, there's going to be a little bit of a difference because of my leads and whatnot, but pretty dang close, right? Last check I'd want to do is red to yellow, okay? From red to yellow. Red to yellow would be from B to A across all three resistors. What should that resistance value be? Well, if we add them all up, that should be close to 3,044. Pretty dang close, right? Pretty dang close. All right. Now the next check we want to do is we want to close the latch, which would be hood closed, switch open. Okay? Hood closed, switch open checks. Is it really necessary to do those checks? If you think about it, yes, because we're checking the integrity of this contact in the switch, okay? So if we do our first check from black to red, that would be from pin C to B with the switch this way now, guys. B to C, that's across a 1580 and a 732, which should be, again, around 2312 ohms of resistance. Pretty close. Pretty dang close, right? All right, next check would be from black to yellow. C to A. Again, this switch is this way, guys. It's this way. C to A is going to be across the 732 ohm resistor, right? Pretty close. Pretty dang close, okay? All right, last check is going to be from yellow to red. Yellow to red. Yellow to red is going to be from B to A. Yellow to red. That's going to be checking the integrity of all three resistors with the switch this way. Now it shouldn't matter because wherever the switch is, it should be identical to our other check. So from B to A with the hood in the what position? The closed position. Closed position is switch open, okay? B to A. And we got the value that we would expect. 3044 would be about the value. So I hope this makes sense, guys. I don't know how else to explain it. If you don't understand voltage drop and how resistors affect current flow, and how resistance can affect the voltage in the drop in a wire, I would highly recommend watching some more videos, doing a lot more research, and just keep studying it, guys. I know it's confusing. This was confusing because the closed position of the hood latch and the open position of the hood latch, it's flipped as far as the switch status is concerned. So it took me a while to figure out how to explain this, and I hope I did a good enough job, and I apologize for the length. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care, and we'll see you on the next one. Keep studying.